you're everybody is a huge fan. So how were you introduced to the nunchucks, and for how long have you been training?
Actually, I was never into sports. Even when I was in school, I was into dance and painting and all of that. I was really never into sports, but with Digant being around, he's a very outdoorsy, like very outdoor person. He loves all these outdoor activities and stuff. So he kind of insisted that. I mean, I know how to swim and cycle and all of that, but I was never consistent with it. So he sort of encouraged me to go for these long cycle rides. By my seventh or eighth ride, I was already doing 50, 60 kilometers. And my goal this year was 100. But unfortunately, in fact, we were, before the summer started, we wanted to go on these long cycle rides, which didn't happen because of the lockdown. It's something that we are missing the most. But now, since it's calming down, I think we're going to get back to cycling, except it's really hot now outside. And nunchuck happened to me. I used to, through this friend Yogi. He used to spend a lot of time in China, and he came back and taught me the Shaolin forms. So I started with Shaolin and Kung Fu, and nunchuck fascinated me. Nunchuck and poi sort of fascinated me, and that's how I picked it up, but just on a very basic level. So since I already knew the basics and stuff, lockdown is the best time to get back to all these old hobbies that you didn't have time for. So I decided to pick it up again and slowly learn the forms. Yeah.
So apart from fitness, you also seem to be indulging in a range of activities like gardening and hanging out with your pets and cooking.
Yeah.
So, what is it that you will miss the most about being in the lockdown?
To be honest, what I'm going to miss the most is all this free time, and especially not feeling guilty about lazing around at home. That's what I'm going to miss the most, because this is literally, it's like you don't need I mean, you have a reason reason to laze around at home, I feel. But yeah, definitely spending more time with pets. Also, I have a new indie at home which I rescued just before the lockdown had started. So I'm spending a lot of time training him, and yeah, and a lot of time with pets and gardening, and basically a lot of time to yourself. You get to reflect on yourself, all the things that you want to do. But honestly, I really can't wait to get back to work. Afternoon nap. Well, yeah, so he was run over by an auto, and he had multiple fractures. So I immediately rushed him to the hospital. And I initially thought, because I've never personally had more than more than one pet at a time. So I thought I'd put him up for adoption. But yeah, he sort of got along with my other pet, and we decided to keep him. And he's part of our family now.
You've been cooking different things. So, among all those dishes that you have cooked so far, which is your best dish?
more than cooking, okay, cooking and baking, I would say. Cooking, I've been trying, experimenting with a lot of South Indian, actually, I'm sure you're aware of beetroot saru. That actually came out really well. And since we're Bengalis, my parents are not too used to having sambar and sarus and stuff, but they love the beetroot saru. So I think that was definitely a success. And baking, I think I've been baking a lot of like chocolate cakes and mango pies. And since mango right now is the tropical fruit of the season, I've been making a lot of things with mango. But also I try to sort of make a healthy twist to it. Like I made a chocolate cake but with oats in it, so it's healthy and tasty.
Great, great. So, now coming to work, how different do you think, the situation or the shoots are going to be post lockdown?
Well, the good side to it would probably be, I think there will be much like smaller units rather than an extensive large unit. There'll be a smaller unit, so I think it'll be more cost effective to the producers. And also sometimes shooting spots are very very chaotic with people like at your face. So I think it'll be less of that. I think social distancing will be a norm. People will have to maintain distance, hygiene also. I think that will be an important part of a daily routine on the shooting spots. Yeah, social distancing, and I think smaller units. We'll have much smaller units, and yeah, I think that will be a different. That'll be a big change to our shooting spots. Yeah. Well, a lot of films do take place with a smaller crew. Smaller budget movies do take place with a smaller crew. So I don't see how bigger units cannot. I mean, big budget movies cannot afford to work with that. Of course, I mean, bigger the budget, bigger the the art. What do you call that? Bigger the sets and stuff. So I think, yeah, definitely it may affect the higher budget films, but not really the smaller and the medium budget. Yeah.
Other languages, do you think pursuing them in such a situation is feasible? And are there any projects that you have been planning to work with?
Yeah, definitely. I was actually looking to pursue some web series in Bombay. I don't think that will happen in the. I mean, in fact, I was shooting for one just before the lockdown started, and we couldn't shoot a very major scene of mine, which was we were headed towards the climax scene, and we couldn't even shoot it because the lockdown was announced towards the end, and we had to just wrap up, and I had to come back to Bangalore. So and that's scheduled to release next month. So without a big chunk of my portion which we were supposed to shoot. So that, I mean, it's definitely going to affect and has affected my work in those terms. If outside Bangalore shoot will definitely get affected. Yeah.
Say that you definitely miss work during the lockdown. So once the lockdown is over, what is the first thing that you will do?
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, even if the lockdown is over, there is still so much restriction in terms of your personal, like we can't just be, see, this virus is actually, it's going to change the world forever. I think as one of them announced, we have to live with the virus. So many things, we'll have to have our personal restrictions as well. Even once the lockdown is over, is done with, I have to maintain certain personal restrictions as well. So I don't know how. Honestly, I haven't thought about it as far as work goes. I mean, I was supposed to do a small movie with a small unit film with Digant. Probably we could go back to that. Yeah. For me, I've already finished shooting for 2 Kannada films. One is Premam Pujam with Prem. We shot in Vietnam last year, end of last year. And another one is with Siddharth Mahesh, Garuda. That's also we've shot for it a while ago, so I think both of them are scheduled to release. But unfortunately, with the current scenario and with I don't know how movies and theaters, I mean, how that's going to work. I think right now, currently, the OTT platform is doing extremely well. As far as movie releases, I think we'll have to hold on for a while. Are you kidding me? See, I've always been a pet parent. See, in fact, in one of my posts, I had mentioned, right, like my stories are always gonna have 4 paws and a tail. See, I have paws on my ears also. I'm a pet parent. We both are pet parents. Yep. I think that's also one kind of parenting, right?
What is that one thing that inspires each of you about the other?
Okay, I'll talk about myself first. What inspires me about Digant? I think he's a very selfless person, very generous, very selfless, and very giving. Like, in fact, during this lockdown, when everything was like at the peak of lockdown, he, in fact, he never even spoke about it on his social media. He's a very quiet person. Doesn't really boast about himself, but he actually rode all the way to Coorg and delivered medicine to this person who, a liver patient who needed this medicine. There is small towns and remote areas which during this lockdown are unable, do not have access to medicines. So he actually rode all the way from Bangalore to Coorg and he delivered those medicines to that patient. So such things about him, like, honestly, I really wouldn't probably go so out of my way and do something for another person, but yeah, I think that really sort of inspires me about him.